Hello, I'm re-recording the first part of this, so this isn't the original dialogue for this video, but I wanted to at least do an intro that was free of ground hum, which I don't currently have the skill to remove in the video editing program that I'm using. I didn't want to go try every video editing program on Earth just to get this going. The point of this video, the reason that I'm doing this, is because I wanted to take a look at some website editing software. I recently discovered a new program called PineGrow. The point of PineGrow is that it's essentially a website development environment, and when I look at it, I discover that it really is almost as complicated as something like Xcode or Visual Studio, which isn't bad, but the whole reason I'm doing this has kind of stemmed off of some conversations that I've been part of and that I've looked at on Twitter, and the conversation there basically goes, it's easy to make your own website, HTML code isn't that hard, and you can find hosting, and in that I've kind of become a little nostalgic for my own old website. And that website I built using a program called Adobe Dreamweaver. Probably heard of it. The big problem with Dreamweaver is, not that you were going to go buy it for $400 a few years ago, but if you wanted to save up and buy a copy of Dreamweaver and use it for a decade, you used to be able to, and you really can't anymore. You have to either obtain it under the table, essentially, or pay 20 bucks a month at minimum to get access to it through Adobe Creative Cloud, which is a bummer because Dreamweaver is very good at what it does, and the way that I was using it was massively underusing the program, but it worked well at it. And this program, PineGrow, it's about $80 to purchase it, and so it's a lot less expensive than Dreamweaver ever was, but it's also a lot less willing to hold your hand through the process of creating a website from scratch. It's very much an environment that could hypothetically help you author content better, or it has some templating functionalities. Master pages we'll find out how to do in this video, but it doesn't really help you along through the process of actually building and maintaining a website. It very much presumes you know what you're doing. And I'll refer to a few HTML and CSS tutorials that the PineGrow team seems to recommend, and I'm sure that they're great and worth looking at. And by that I mean I've read through at least one of them. It's a very well-regarded book, and PineGrow would probably be a good option if you were wanting to build a website using the stuff you learned in that book, and also wanted to have a tool that helped manage content a little better. And Dreamweaver's not good at that anymore. One thing I don't look at in this video, because I am pretty sure, I haven't looked at it in a few years actually, so I won't bother saying it because there's a lot of things that I don't look at in this video. Without further ado though, my initial time is just about up, and we're going to start looking at activating the PineGrow program and editing a first page in it, and then figuring out how master pages work and templating works. And we're not actually going to make anything pretty, but it is going to exist, and then I'm going to look at Dreamweaver, and then just for fun I'm going to switch over to my Mac and look at some other programs, in particular iWeb and modern kind of reimagining of iWeb, which is called RapidWeaver. Anyway, hopefully this is good.
Okay, we are back, and I'm going to tell it I've already got the key because I just had it sent, and I'm going to copy it from the email here, and then enter that and start the trial. My 7-day trial was activated. All features are enabled. It's probably worth noting, 2 versions. If we go to features, I believe The more expensive one is almost certainly going to be the one that's worth using. Quick guide might be important for people who are doing what I'm thinking of, the thing that I have in mind. And what I'm going to do just to make this fun is, oh, here we go, Pine Grove Pro. $80, that's a little more than I thought. And there's a lot of stuff in here, but most of this stuff that we see isn't necessarily important for the thing that I want to do, which I will reveal in a little bit. So anyway, let's just see what we can get going. Atom is back. Live Sync, PineGrow, and Atom. So Atom's not built in, but you can use it in conjunction with this tool. This reminds me of what I wanted to look at earlier was the task manager on this machine, because I just wanted to see if we go look, is NWJS this? Yes, it is. It claims to be using 12 megabytes of RAM. I am going to put money on that's not the only process for this. Here they are, 8213 2 megs. This is some kind of non-native app. It doesn't matter a lot if you have a lot of memory, but if you're using an older computer or a cheap computer, it will matter. So this program is nice looking, but it doesn't really match in the sense that here's what OneNote looks like, and here's what PowerPoint looks like, and here's what Notepad looks like. This looks different, not that different, and you don't know Windows people. So there's a bunch of stuff here. It looks like some templates. Let's see what plain foundation. What is all this stuff? Side note, I actually don't know anything about like HTML, like modern design frameworks and stuff like that, so I'm just going to pick a plain HTML page. Gosh, we're not in Dreamweaver anymore, Toto. Oh, we have to... Do we have to like specifically... Oh, that's nasty. And also, can I just preview? Oh, no, stop that. Okay, so we have a paragraph, and we can move the paragraph. We could make another new paragraph, or we could even make a block quote. But how do we... Oh, do we edit text? Right-click, edit text. This can't... Oh, I had a sub-element. Oh, there we go. This is my first page with PineGrow. Oh no. I like using computer software to do tasks and also pursue my hobbies. Darn it. Can't inline edit body element. What if I... Now, over here in this third column, I wish I could point at the screen, it's saying something. The Oh, okay, wait. What do I want my block quote to say? Computers are super cool for working on hobby tasks. Done. Gosh, this is... I feel like this isn't actually much better than just writing HTML, which it's kind of showing you the structure here, like but the way that this works, cannot page edit code. You can see all of the code over here. Can I move this to... what on earth? No, can this not be a tab with the other one? Okay. So all this this stuff's not necessary. This new page if you were just doing super plain HTML, you wouldn't link a CSS page. But really, this is almost as easy as, you know, Markdown. It's just that you have to put stuff in there. Oh my gosh. Editing this graphically, left some random stuff in there, and then let's save. Oh my gosh. So firstly, it wants to notify us of something that's probably important for us to know at the same time that we've got a save dialog box open, and it's going to put us in the program folder instead of in our own documents folder, and we'll be smart about this and make a new folder called Pinegrow site, and we'll just call this, we'll just leave this as new. Save. New.html was saved. Would you... yes, that would be great. Okay, so it figured out that I wanted to make a project. That's good. And it put some other files in here. Style.css. There's a special place you have to go to edit the CSS template. And I will admit, I was kind of hoping that it would just give us a default CSS template, but I'm guessing that what we have to do is, where's the style place? We probably have to, gosh darn it, we probably have to go to some other part of the program. It almost looks like, oh, well there it is, it's a different tab up here, and we have to see, it lets us do things like we could create borders on the page, and it looks like there's options for setting text styling. The whole point of CSS is to style an entire website once. But this is not making it easy for us. This is what this is a development environment for people who already know these tools. And new page, if we were to use Bootstrap to create something, I bet that it wouldn't. Yeah, it's creating some stuff, and we might be able to build off of this, but this kind of depends on us wanting a Bootstrap website. And interesting. Let me play with this a bit more and then come back. Okay, welcome back. So it took a while, but I figured out that if you go to the project, firstly, it doesn't automatically refresh in here. You don't know if you put something in from Windows Explorer, you have to click on Reload Project, something that you didn't have to do in other programs I've seen, but that's a different issue. This new icon here means that this is a master page, which you do by opening the page, clicking on the page HTML level of the document structure, and then choosing in this little actions menu set as master page. In here I've started dropping some stuff on the page, and I'm going to go back here to the library section, and I want to add some more stuff because I want to see here. I think if I insert before header and then footer, this is starting to look like a page, and I just want to see nav, what that'll look like. So this is yet to be fleshed out, but eventually, like in the header, we'll have some text that says this is our web page and maybe a picture. The navigation will be to navigate to parts of our page. This place where it says heading 1, I haven't done it yet, but this is going to be an editable region. And kind of the goal here is to build out a template that makes pages on the site look like each other. And the idea here is that you want to be able to edit your template and then update all of your pages at once using that. And then make it real easy when you want to make a new page or a new content page to just say new content page, apply the template, start typing, and then link it from another page on your site. And it makes, once you set this up beforehand, it makes things a little easier. Let me show you what I mean, just idly, because I have my old website up. I pulled it up off a backup disk, and it's in my kind of junk folder, personal.stenweb.net, under the folder SliceP site. And this site is pretty simple. It used to load a Twitter feed in here, but it doesn't anymore. In here you can see that I've got a navigation bar with like projects and stuff. I was going to make a links page, and these are like my top sections. And there was a photography page, and I was eventually going to put like albums on here, and that was going to take a while, and that's why it never happened. And I made this site or a variation of it for a class, so there was some resume stuff, and I used this site a lot for a journal. I used it as my blog for about a year and a half, 2008, 2009, and some of 2010 maybe? Yeah, 2010. So about a year, almost a year and a half, and I added some stuff you saw up there. The 2017 stuff, I have been adding some stuff. I've got a copy of Dreamweaver on one computer that's where this is from. And you can see in here all these links are nice relative links. So the goal maybe isn't to make it look like that, because that's a Dreamweaver template, but what I eventually want to do, and I've got this h1 content and then this div, and the idea behind a div is that you should be able to put things like P's inside them. Did that work? Yes. And P's are the paragraph level. Unfortunately, that one went to the wrong spot. This is kind of neat. It lets you so this is a graphical representation of the code over here. It lets you reorder specific bits. I'm going to delete these sections, delete, and I want to see if I can rename this. guess I can't. Anyway, what I'm going to do here, so this heading 1 is something I want to be editable. Over here in the puzzle piece actions toolbar, we can say that this is, we can define this editable area. And we can do the same thing for this div, define editable area. And let's just go up here and for our title, let's just, oh, I probably should have made it a main. That's okay, I'm not super worried. These, like, really the structure that you use almost doesn't matter unless you're using CSS extensively. But in here, I just want to, can I just type title text? I can. Gosh, let's just make this, that's a little easier, but also a little harder. Let's make this H1 again, and on the navigation, let's kind of do the same thing I did on the other page. Pipe, home, pipe, I don't know, home, projects, articles, links, about, and we'll just put pipes on both ends of that to make it make sense. And then let's save this, and after this we'll see what happens when we try to make a page based off of it. Okay, we're back, and just to review, this is our master page. It got big again. Let's just this program is really prefers a giant display. Here's what our template looks like. We could actually add some footer content. Maybe in the footer content we'll just drop a P and say like this site is made by Corey. Yay! And I don't know, like we'll just not do anything else there. Save, close. Okay, so I think what we have to do is add new page. Oh, this is better than I had thought it would be. It just displays the master, and you know, so again, the program doesn't do any favors for you on this by naming your first page new by default, but web servers generally look for a file called index.html first, so we're just gonna presume that this is gonna be the first page you see when you get to our website, and we're gonna call it index what? New page master index.html. Okay. Do you want to leave this site? No. Okay. So that was weird. So it's not going to let us edit this stuff. This is a horrifyingly bad error message, because what I suspect it really means is, let's save this. What I suspect it really means is this is not something you have permission to edit. What? Okay, let's try this. This is dynamic element. What? Control E to view the code. Does it let us? try, but okay. Save and close. Let's try. Wait, what's? Okay. So there is an index. Let's just delete that. And then see if this, okay, this looks more like what we wanted. But it's supposed to, because, okay, we're supposed to be able to edit, oh, not that one. Are you sure about this? We're supposed to be able to edit some of this stuff. Oh, I know what happened. I forgot to define those two things as editable locations. Let's go back to the master page and let's select this whole element and define editable element. I don't know, text heading. And then where's our div? Div, oh, div is, oh, field ID, page content. And do you know what I wonder? Title, page title. Actually, let's head page title, and this one, let's go body page title. Ideally, we type that in once and it would display both places, but I'm not gonna. This is a real test though, because we just updated our template. What ideally this would do when we hit save, file, save, what I'd have liked it to do is oh, it did. Okay. Can't edit. That's fine. I want to. Okay. Welcome to index page. And now in the div, let's go. And this, what I'm gonna do instead of editing the div like graphically, because it shows up as like 0 pixels, is I'm gonna select it in here, and I'm going to use P, and I'm gonna drag it in there, and I'm hoping, there we go. You kind of have to fiddle with it to, oh, I see, you can use this, it's like an outlining tool where you make it edit text. Darn it, and this is, let's just make this 320 pixels wide again. It makes it look silly, but it does work. Okay, come on. Home page. Find lots of cool things. Yay! So that is index. No, we accidentally did all that on the master page. Okay. This is me not paying attention. And we'll just, you know what I'm just gonna say is, Okay, master, and then if I like refresh, the thing I'd like to be able to do the thing I need to find out is how to reapply the master component, the master page again, save all, which it's not doing, which is sort of critical to this particular type of work because you're not going to define your master once ever. You know, in a few years, when I have videos that I'm hosting on my page, I'll want to add a section for them. So that's a little weird. Okay, I figured it out. I feel silly, but let's go ahead and look at this again. 600 pixels, that doesn't really matter. Let's go, so I figured it out, and you'll notice that my index has been updated, and what I actually want to do is try something out here, because ideally, so now that I figured out how to do this, we should be able to do this without here we go, I'm just going to edit in here because this is easier. This is the index page to my new site, which I am building with a href equals, we know that, pinegrow. Okay, I'm going to put the URL in later. Actually, let me just go get a pinegrow URL right now, just for fun. This is extra credit. Okay. Escape. Okay, so you can see here's my content of my page, and this program is a little dicey. So I'm going to save everything again, and then I'm going to go master HTML, because what do you know, I actually have videos already. So I'm just going to say like projects, articles, videos, right? Okay, done, and save all, right? Okay, well, you'd think, but I found out here's what you have to do. You have to go to components and ideally update the whole project, because eventually you're going to have a sprawling web property with somewhere between a handful to a dozen to a few hundred pages. I know that my Dreamweaver site has like 1,000 files in it. So you hit update, and this action, oh my gosh. So they recommend, but don't provide, a version control program. Microsoft SharePoint could hypothetically do that, but probably not like for something like this. Okay, we'll tell it okay. The thing I'm interested in is what happens to the content. Oh, yay, the content appears to have stayed, which is critical, and I'm just going to save all right now. So the reason that's important is that you don't want to go rewrite all 100 of your pages every time you apply a new template. You may as well not use templates, because it's going to be faster to, you know, update your one link each time, or just not use a template in that case. Let's do something else. I want to add a new folder, and I'm going to call this folder oh, come on, projects. Okay, this is going to go somewhere. Then what I want to do is add a new page, with the master page called projects.html. You might be able to see where this is going. Hit save, and then 600 pixels. We're gonna save all. Okay, so this, we're just gonna go and close and reopen it. There we go. I don't know why it does that. It gets real dicey when you first open this. Somewhere in here. Oh, here we go. Projects. Okay. And then in here, let's set this back to 600. In here, we need to go to page title and try to. Okay. And then in here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to the code for the div because I want to do a few things. What I want to do is make 2 paragraphs in there. This is a page for my projects. I work on a lot of computer systems. In here, that's okay. I want. Oh, it's not gonna. What? Do I not like get. Really? Do I not get like a. I mean, I'm just so you know. There we go. I was gonna say I'm looking for an unordered list. Okay. Let's go back and edit the code for. Where's PR? Okay, perhaps it's time to. What? Done. Okay, anyway, point being, we've got a projects page. What we should be able to do now is build out some of our things, and I'm gonna. There we go. This will make it easier to see. What I'm hoping to do in here, home, link, is figure out. Okay, good. It lets you do this. Create. This is not as nice as it is in some tools, but it is there. Link, projects, open, create, done, save all, components, update whole project, at which point we can see in here, if we go File, Save All of our things are updated. The thing I want to see now is if we go to our projects, what happens if we go, oh, I made this page, but there's a folder for it. It doesn't even let us move stuff. They've solved this problem by making files unmovable. Let's go try something. This is in the Documents folder, Pinegrove site, projects. Reload project. It hasn't automatically updated this, which is not the end of the world, but is a little bit of a bummer. Let me go ahead and update it now. so that we can capture that. Open and save all components, update the whole project. And what this should do now, projects A should link to there we go. So in here on the right it should say just projects.html. If we open index, links should say project/project. So it does do relative linking correctly, which is good. In here you can kind of see how you might continue on to make the website the way you wanted to, and add more stuff. It looks ugly now, but you would hypothetically style it with CSS, which brings me to my next point. Okay, there we go. For the convenience of editing video, I have split this into a new video. The next thing I wanted to say is that PineGrow really isn't the solution that you want to be using if you're looking for something really easy. It says pretty much straight up on the website that it is for people who know how to build websites, and the whole point is that you're looking for an environment in which to build websites, basically to keep track of things. Although why they're claiming that and then not giving you a version control system, which in the text of their program they highly recommend, I don't know. They, I would say, do an okay job of creating that environment. However, they're creating something that's more difficult to understand than, for example, this is a motherfucking website, and it's fucking perfect. And the reason I say that is because if you look at this and you view the source of it, you can see pretty clearly they've got less meta here. You can see the structure of this document. This stuff here, lines 3 to 10, gosh darn it, I can't select that easily, is the header, and then you see the body, and then there's more header. I don't know why they did that. Oh, I see, header as opposed to head. This is an NH1 and the subtitle. I kind of, those are tags. Aside is not something I've used before. Sections are headed with H2. Paragraphs are using the P paragraph tabs. Here's an unordered list. Here's another heading. Here's some more content, and here's like a link with a, oh, actually this is a citation with a block code, and there's a script in here that this page is using some analytics. Not super heavy, kind of neat. Just by the way, you can go to this DOM Explorer and it actually shows you, if you click on, like, here's the H2 and here's the header, and you can go in and explore the structure this way, which kind of gives you a good graphical view of what's going on in the HTML. And this one, in the head, you can see that there's no CSS. This is perfectly plainly styled, which is what we have over there. The thing that PineGrow strikes me as being for, if you don't already know HTML and CSS very well, or Bootstrap or whatever, is it seems to be like a tool you could use to guide yourself if you were using a tool like this, how to code in HTML.com, or if you were using the oh, that's neat, calm down, this HTML and CSS book, which I believe you can buy on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, although oddly you can't buy it on, as far as I know, iBooks, which would be the perfect place for it, or just as a PDF file, which would be also perfect. Point being, it's really a development tool, not a website builder. And I think that those two things are different. Dreamweaver's both. iWeb by Apple is a website builder. WordPress is a website builder, but it runs on your server. That kind of thing. There we go. Hello again. Okay. So, I've installed a new program on this computer. It's here in the Start menu. Ah, look, my old copy of Dreamweaver. Okay. And I already set it up with the website that I showed you earlier, which is the site that I used to host on a machine I referred to as the Slice, which was a virtual private server that I had. That server cost about $20 a month, and that was, kind of some old pricing, and it costs less than that to have a VPS at this point. And there's also hosting options like nearlyfreespeech.net. Anyway, this site, like I said, there's like 100 or so files in here, and I mentioned, there's this main template file. Actually, this is probably a good time to go update this because I have a links page. So here in the main template file, you'll notice this is a lot more smooth. And here, my favorite thing about this thing has always been, maybe not my most favorite thing, and maybe not always, but one of the things I've liked about Dreamweaver traditionally has been how graphical it is. So I highlighted this, and this down here is kind of like your controls for styling and stuff like that. And here is a link. If this were an offsite web page, you could, put a URL in there, or you can use this to literally point to a file in your structure and it'll go through. And I'm going to choose links.html to link that, and then when we save, this is going to say, do you want to do this? And it knows where everything is, and it says, okay, I'm done, and you hit close. And it even updated the file that's open, which is the index page. And then we can save that. And it says blogger.js. I don't know what that is, a remote file. Oh, there's probably something in the page for this. I probably need to consider. What I should really do is just delete this tweet thing. Twitter. Okay, I'm just going to go back to design, and I'm going to delete Twitter updates. Code, is there still more? Oh yeah. Twitter div, yeah, see, I wouldn't. At the time I made this, I was like, what's a div? And I know a little bit better now, but I still, probably wouldn't use this. And see, you can see that this uses a div, and there's some stuff like the CSS styles are actually specified in here, which is not technically the correct way to do it, but Dreamweaver is managing it, and that's kind of it works well. And I'm pretty sure on a browser that will just ignore CSS, the page will still work properly, which is great, because basically you have all of this is the code for what makes things look the way that they do. And in here, here's that photography page that I linked to, and I could even, say go to my Flickr page, or I could, given that I have a Flickr page, I may be able to embed it in here. But what I really wanted to do with this at some point was insert table, most likely, and I was just gonna go probably top headers %, just let this fill 100% of the space, and then put a thumbnail here and a description and a date or something like that, and just make little galleries. And I didn't have a good tool for doing that, and I still really don't, so I never got around to it. There's tools to do galleries online, Dreamweaver doesn't have that built in, and probably the way to do it would be to go into Lightroom, which I don't have on this machine, but I should at some point put it here. Or I could go into my machine where I do have Lightroom and set up an export to just export to a particular folder, a 100 by 100, a 200 by 200 version, and a 1000 by 1000 version, and put them both in. That would be the quickest way to do it. But that's not the point here. The point is that this was really easy to structure, and I had a journal. What I've been thinking about doing, I had kind of my projects page, and there was this whole thing where I was going to write about building like a fictional Windows NT4 domain, and I've got some stuff about, from my work with NaNoWriMo and the spreadsheet, which is nice to be able to see. So this might go back up as personal.stenoweb.net instead of the plain listing of files, so that I can put this stuff back up. And then I've got some, like this stuff folder was just kind of the old dumping ground. And common images, I used a quote mark, I guess. We can probably open this file from right here. The point is, this is how I used to edit my web page, and I didn't expect it to open it like this. Is going to take a few moments because this is a big program. Yeah, I must have used that in like one post. I don't remember that specifically. Save all. So this is how I was doing it. This is a pretty flexible system, and you could have more than one template in here. For example, I could, let's go look at a journal entry, 2017. We'll just look at the one, 5/21. Yeah, Electric Boogaloo. I could make a template that had this as a separate space from this, and make it a special blog template. I don't think I will, because that would involve, updating all this stuff at the top twice, but it's a possibility. So that's that. Hello. So here we are on my Mac, and just to prove it, let's go to About This Mac. It's running the current version. And the thing I wanted to mention here, and this is mostly just to be illustrative, it's not a bad idea per se to build a website in this program, but I don't think that most people should run out and buy a Mac just to get this. But long ago, actually I could probably look up the history, a few years ago, honestly we're getting to the point where it's probably 10 or more years ago, Apple built this software called iWeb, which we're going to launch. This is the first time. We're just going to tell it no thanks. This version's from 2009, so this version itself is pretty old. Oh, darn it. Let's open software update. Okay. We'll do that. Is it gonna get the update? We'll see. Maybe it won't. I haven't seen any problems, so I'm not super worried. You can go download the patch separately on Apple's website, I'm pretty sure. We don't have to watch the video tutorials, but it's nice that they're there. The whole concept behind iWeb, which I used a bunch, in fact I remember using it in like 2005, so it's more than 10 years old, is that it was an easy way to build a website. The idea being that you would either put your website on Apple's hosting service at the time, .Mac or iTools or MobileMe or whatever it was called at the time, or you would put it in, I'm not kidding you, the public HTML folder in your user folder on your Mac, and you'd port forward your router, and people would visit your site, and they'd be visiting in the personal web sharing, which at this point it's literally Apache. So let's just make a site. There's a whole bunch of themes I always preferred either white or black, or this dark room's kind of nice. Dark room kind of being like a photography focused thing. So we'll go ahead and choose the welcome page here, and it's kind of, here's all these hokey templates. Um, and we can change this and be all like, okay, oh, I see what it wants us to do. Corey's World, and kind of like, here's the site I'm making on my Mac, kind of a thing, and you can, is that really an exclamation point? It is. Okay. You can put a bunch of things on here, and they've got this hokey made on a Mac logo, and the audio and the photos and video won't do anything because we're not. Oh, that's interesting. Because we're not, like, iPhoto doesn't exist anymore. It's on the disk, but it literally won't run in this version of macOS 10. So to do stuff like that, you'd have to go to somewhere else on your disk, like, you know, home, and then pictures, and like put, let's see, you wanted to use one of these. You'd have to like put this in here, and we'll just use that one. So there's no like, here we go. There's no like gallery integration with iPhoto, but as you can see, it's really easy to put stuff in, and you can even, you could like undo that. You could edit the mask and like pick where it zoomed in, which is kind of neat. Not a lot of photos let you do stuff like that. There we go. Or not a lot of websites have that capability. But the neat thing here is that if you hit like new page and you went into, let's say, photos, right? You can create in here. How's the way to do this? Oh, I see. Each of these is a gallery. Okay, so let's say, this is a set of images. You just drop these on here, and it takes a moment or so because it's going to resize them. And like I said, this is what I was talking about doing manually in Lightroom earlier. And, let's say this is 20, this is 2014 vacation, right? You put that in there, and then you make another new page to have a different gallery, which is kind of structured a little weirdly, but like here we just do, these, and then here's your other gallery. And the whole point of this is, the themes are hokey and they're difficult to update, but look at how fast that went. And here you can say, I went on this vacation in 2015. I forget what year these are actually from, but you get the point. And you can say like, you can rename them and stuff like that. And I think, nope, that didn't do what I thought. But the other thing I always liked was that you could make a new page for a blog. And there's also a podcast, and you could put videos and audios in those podcasts. And your blog can be like, here's your blog, and you can add entries and edit them individually here, and go, and you can't do an awful lot on this page because it's basically like, well, here's the list of entries, but the picture that you put in here becomes the header picture for that archive, that entry. So you can put that in there, and when someone's looking at your blog, they've got those pictures. and the first few bits, and this creates an RSS feed that works and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff going on here that I think is really neat, and you can make a new page, and you can have a dedicated movie page if you have, well, let's just create one. If you have a video file, which I happen to do, come on. That might not be the best idea for one to do. Let's go see if we can get the test from an iPhone screen recording. Okay, that's me playing some SimCity Build It. And rename. And in here, you'll notice at the top the menu structure kind of becomes unwieldy, but you can choose whether or not to, somewhere in here, View, Show Inspector, you can actually choose whether or not to include the page in the navigation menu. So you could uncheck that, it wouldn't show, but if you went to the welcome page, you could say like, check out my movie, right? And then insert hyperlink to web page, and then you can hit one of my pages, and then you can actually just hit SimCity Build It, and you can oh no, there we go. That way you can create more content and structure things. You can't really structure them internally, but you can structure them externally. And this is great for having a relatively low number of pages, because like I said, you can't, the logical thing to do here would be to say new page, and maybe make up like a blank page for like videos that you've recorded, and then upload, put this there. The other possibility would of course be to, for media files in particular, you would just say new page, and then podcast, and you have, each video file, like here's your iPhone screen test, and this is SimCity gameplay, and entry 1 here is this desktop recording file, right? And then and you do that. And then the other thing you can do, that desktop recording was from March 15th. You can redate these, but gosh, if I don't remember how. There we go. You click on this thing, and it 3/15, and it lets you redate them, so you can kind of order them that way as well. And this, of course, shows, this, and up here you can edit this. And the whole point in showing this off is that I just really believe that this is from a different era, where kind of like the GeoCities era, but it's much more dressed up, and it always felt like Apple had a really good program here, the main disadvantage of which was that sometimes if something went wrong, you'd get these just utterly ridiculous file names, and that's why I stopped using it, was because the version I had in my site, which had a few dozen pages and some journal entries and stuff. This was after I started using Blogger, but before I really started self-hosting things. and the file names became like 100-character GUID strings, and it was impossible to work with it, and that was kind of a bummer. Oh, see, this is super graphical, everything about this. And one of my other problems was always that like things would get destroyed in the process of working with all of this. So you'd end up with like a page where I was trying to like create a layout or whatever, and I would accidentally move something, and that would be like the end of it. It would be like, oh, sorry, now your page is gone. And you could do like this could be a travelogue or whatever, and the blogs were always difficult to format for that reason as well. And it kind of looks like CSS consecutor. Yeah, like that's supposed to be a this could be like a caption or whatever, or like the pull quote of the blog, and then it uses this. And again, you can double click on that to change this. And I always liked the idea because it seemed like you could edit your web page locally and push the changes up. And that's one of the nice things is up here you can actually use an FTP server, and this does work with SFTP. So you could host it on another Mac or a Linux or Unix server, or you could just say a local folder and choose, and hypothetically you could browse to a Windows file server location. It Who knows how long this will be working in macOS 10. It could be that this stops working in High Sierra this coming year. It could be that it works for another 10 years. My experience with Final Cut Pro 6 here is that it works barely and slowly. Of course, iWeb is doing relatively trivial work in comparison, so it doesn't matter that much. Anyway, this is what it looks like to create an iWebsite. Maybe one more thing that's of note is that you could, let's say hypothetically if you were a parent and you wanted your regular site to look like this, but you wanted your baby photos to look like this, you could build out a site with different templates. It would look totally weird. But the other thing is you can just have more than one site. You could even have them be different subdirectories in an overall folder. I always liked the modern frame one too. Actually, that looks nice. There's a bunch of things in here, and they look hokey by today's standards. Modern kind of looks. Actually, that does still look pretty modern. Ooh, it just occurred to me what you're supposed to do with the photo albums. You're supposed to do this. There's a My Albums page. Ahaha. And oh, that I didn't notice. You can make them all part of. Okay. Okay. You can make. I didn't know that you could move things back and forth like that. So that's how you do that, and you will. I don't. You wouldn't do that. You could. It looks like put a movie in the My Albums. Can you put? No, you can't. Okay. So movies will work in My Albums as well. That's interesting. But there's no other like page collation. So like if this is rename, if this is the page about the project for my server, and I go and I make a new page, and I make another blank page about like just I don't know, right? Like just a page, an article about a particular machine that I have. These have to be separate pages and they can't be grouped, which is a little bit of a bummer, and I can see how you'd end up with this unwieldy thing here compared to more manual programs where you can structure the content a little better. So that's iWeb. That's really all there is to it. I'm obviously missing something. There's formatting options everywhere. It looks like you can change the theme of the page or perhaps the whole site after the fact. There's other shapes that you can add, which is kind of interesting. I guess you could make like a shape here, and then you probably can I'm just guessing here, but my guess is that you'll be able to, yeah, put pictures in there, and that's a gas pump, if anyone was interested in knowing. That's how much I paid for gas one particular day. And this is kind of neat. It looks like this almost has some controls, so you can, use this as a graphic for a particular thing, or you could probably put text in here. Maybe not. Shapes. Let's do. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yep. There's where you put text. So this is, this is really like a desktop publishing application that makes websites, and it has, content structure and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily. It's like Publisher, and actually Microsoft Publisher can probably make websites still too. I might have to go look at that to see what that looks like. But the point is, this is an easy way to build websites. The websites were pretty good. They're a lot heavier than what you'll get out of a default Dreamweaver or writing it on your own, but they're still a lot lighter than using a content management system, and they're still a lot more yours than putting them on a free service. Okay, I lied. There's one more segment of this video. I remembered during the iMovie segment, or the iWeb segment rather, that there is one more piece of website editing software that I've wanted to look at for a long time, because this thing came out kind of near the end of iMovie's or iWeb's lifetime. Gosh, it was probably introduced in maybe 2005 or 2006, so not like right at the end, but pretty close to the end. And this thing, RapidWeaver, basically offered the same thing as iWeb, but a little bit better and a little bit more flexible. So use demo, and ooh, there's different things in here. There's sample projects. Let's see what split is. Everybody needs a personal website. Ooh. What do you want my contacts for? Oh, this is so weird. Wow. This is interesting. The heart. Where's that? Okay. So this is not exactly the same as iWeb in that really iWeb you're editing in a Safari window. This you edit, and there's some things that kind of you have to look at. This is interesting. This might not have been the best place to start, because this kind of looks like it's doing most of what PineGrow was doing, but it's doing it for you. This blog See, every page is different. That's so weird. But this, see, this does the same thing as iWeb, where you put in your entries, and they're here. I see these are different entries. Yeah, Scarlet Plague, Princess of Mars, Markdown. Oh, this is just a page. Oh, I see why this is called split navigation, is probably because they were introduced in the context of structuring things like this with the different. Yeah, I wonder if that's what it was. And then gallery, and the reason it asked for contact was probably because it wanted to use my email address. Let's. You cannot add to a document. Oh, interesting. Let's close that and go. Let's see what Allegro looks like. See, this appears to expect you to know a little bit more, because you have to use the divs to get it to. Yeah, exactly. Yep, this is what it's doing. And they're talking about responsive design here, so what they're gonna yeah, this is actually really nice, and maybe not hard to program, but something I wouldn't want to bother with myself, which is why I don't have anything like this. Let's just go new project and see about adding a. Okay, a styled text page. Home. So that's not what I expected this to look like, I'll be honest. So this is really interesting, and I think that there's possibly a lot to look at here. And master style. See, you could use this to update the theme. This could be worth looking at if you have a Mac and you were interested in basically having a content managed site using a graphical program that was going to have pretty good support and stuff like that. And here's same stuff as iWeb, local folder, FTP. It might or might not be worth doing, but it could add. Oh, see. What's resource? Oh, that's like if you wanted to add like an image asset. Oh, I see. And then here's all the different. See, like you can create a blog using this and a sitemap officially. But on this page, like you can create. Oh, you can. You should be able to create a page and put it in. No, this is turning out not to be as good as I'd hoped it would be, because you can't put pages in folders. Oh, you can put pages inside each other. Okay, that's what that looks like. It's still a little weird. Oh, I see. Menu structure. This would give you a much more modern looking website that will take longer to load, but it is still easier and still like freer, and you're not encumbered by a particular platform.